Good morning, everybody. We created the Just product to advance product itself. We wanted to have the local community to meet and connect, but also learn from the leading minds in product.
Especially like the talk from Marty Kagan was very good, very honest.
Great people, great atmosphere, great venue.
I was pleasantly surprised how easy it was to talk to people here.
The heart of Munich, to be with all these awesome product managers. I can't just say I'm looking forward to the next time.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back, Julia. Yeah. Hello.
Hi, Thomas.
Nice to have you here. Yeah. So, maybe most of you know us, yeah, because we had the Just Product Conference a couple of weeks ago, almost 4 weeks ago, and we had a huge positive feedback to your talk, Julia.
Yes, I got a lot of questions afterwards and a lot of people approaching me, and it was really cool to see how much that resonated. Yeah,
it resonated a lot, and then therefore we just asked, you know, like, if you would be open to have such a session, right? Just to go a little bit deeper into the context, have the questions, connect with the people, and you agreed, and that's why we are here, and super happy to have you here today.
Yes, also happy to be here, and yes, happy to everyone who is sitting in front of their computers and is listening to us today.
Yeah, I think most of the viewers know you. But, you know, just in case some people join who didn't see the talk, give a little bit context, just briefly introduce you, what you do, what the talk was about, and then we just jump right into the question. By the way, you guys can type in the question into the tool. There is a chat box, right? And we can bring up your questions here on the screen that everybody sees the question. So you can just fire in the question whenever you have them. But now, Julia, just short introduction. What do you do? What was the talk about?
Yes, sure. Yes, so my name is Julia Bastian. And from my background, I'm a business psychologist. And actually, I never thought I would ever happen to end up in product. But just like all product people, you somehow end up here. And it was a cool journey because I started working as an innovation consultant, working with a lot of big corporates and helping them to develop products in like a really, really early phase. Yeah. And then I just felt after some time that I wanted to stick with one product because otherwise you never feel the impact of what you're doing and you never really like also see the consequences of your decisions. And so I came to Alasco, which is a startup based in Munich, and we are a prop tech. So we started back then, it was like 4 or 5 years ago now, with a tool for financial controlling for construction projects. So like all the financial streams that are happening on a construction project. Yeah. So a pretty complex domain, and I didn't come from the construction industry. And back then we were 20 people, and I started as UX researcher and started to like understand the whole market. And then, yes, with the growing of our company and with the funding rounds, I started to take over the head of product role and the VP product role, and have built up the whole product team over the last 4 years, which was a really interesting ride. And yes, 1 month ago, I actually stepped back from my VP product role. Just after some time, like I just felt I needed some time again to reflect and like to go deeper into the product work again. So now I handed over a lot of things, and now I'm in the role of doing research and innovation for Alasco, especially around AI, and this is pretty exciting as well. And yes, in my talk, I talked about B2B Product Discovery, because I, in the beginning, really felt that B2B Product Discovery is underrepresented out there, considering speakers, meetups, and all of this. And I sometimes just felt it's so hard to find the real context or the content that helps me in my daily life. And this is how it happened that we two talked, and that I happened to be on stage on the Just Product.
Yeah, we also, like, we asked at the very beginning, like, what people actually would like to have, you know, a talk about, and B2B was very much one of the top 3. Yeah, and that was really like the intersection of B2B and product discovery is especially interesting. And nice. So everybody knows now who we are, what we do. Let's jump into the Q&A section. Here we have already like one question popping up, and this is like how you can type in your question as well, and it will come here on the screen. Tom asks, super interested to understand more detail about customer insight process. What process do you follow? What are the key inputs you gather? What software do you use to capture and classify it? Who owns this process? Basically, all your secrets, please.
Sure.
So that's a really easy question to start, right?
Yeah,
so
cool.
how do we approach that? I mean, you take it, right?
Sure. Yeah, Tom, good question, and actually a question many people ask me. So just in general, why do I think a customer insight process is really important? So in B2B, it sometimes is harder to collect enough feedback because you can't get the quantitative feedback, and therefore you need the qualitative feedback. And it always takes a lot of time to get this feedback. And because of this effort of getting, like, arranging interviews, like talking to customers, you somehow need to scale this process more than you have to do that in B2C. And therefore, we started to, like, really implement this insight process that I have been talking about in my talk. So how does that look in detail? I would just, like, go through it and how we're doing it. So the most important thing is that the insights are really coming from our customer-facing teams, because they are the ones having the knowledge and they are in daily contact with our customers. So it's, for us, it is sales and customer success that are in daily contact. So I've set up really practically a workflow on Slack, and they have a template that they have to fill out, and they get different questions because sales always has, like, huge requests, like, build this kind of feature, or like, it's just sometimes more abstract. And customer success, on the other side, has more like insights on a bug, on a certain small thing that is not working perfectly, or a feedback and whatever. So we have different kind of questions we ask them. And it's just a form. I can also share it with you, Tom, afterwards. And then they enter these insights, and we, like, really, we have to motivate them to enter this on a regular basis. So every interview or every sales deal that is going through our pipe, they need to share some insights or some learnings that they had in between.
Are these learnings or feature requests? Because, you know, in terms of sales, you know, like, especially in B2B and in project companies, right? It's always possible to sell something on top and, you know, have another feature here and another functionality there. So what is it actually? Is it really insights, or is it feature requests? Like, which structure do you have there?
Yeah. So to be honest, it's requests, but I always call it insights because I want to educate the salespeople. Oh, nice insight, and not nice requirement we have to do. So this is why I'm using the word insight a lot. But of course, a lot of times it's just a requirement. They have on their list the customer and tells the salesperson, hey, this needs to be in our product so that we're going to buy it.
And is this specifically from customers you already have? Or is it also like in a sales process with new customers? Because, you know, like, we experienced a lot in the project to product context as well, right? If you have like a big client coming up, you know, you try to push these things into your organization.
Yeah, so it's both. So on the one side, sales are giving us insights requests from prospects. And customer success is sharing insights from customers. So we have both levels.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that's the first the step of the funnel, right?
Exactly.
How many steps do we have that we can?
It's actually not that much. So it's the first one is just how do I get the knowledge out of the heads from my customer facing teams, because that's where the knowledge lies. And if I don't want to talk, even so I want to, but I don't have the time to talk to customers all the time, I need to somehow leverage their knowledge. And this is kind of how you streamline the process at a first step. So this is how we started, and we put it up as a Slack process, but you can do this in a Google Forms, whatever, doesn't really matter.
Whatever works,
And then we push those insights into a tool called Product Board. There are a couple of tools out there. We are just totally stuck with Product Board because there are all of our insights from the beginning of Alasco, so we will never change the tool. And it's a cool tool because what you do in there is pretty much the insights from Slack are in Product Board, just like an inbox.
Yeah.
So you have like an inbox, like in your email, and then there's this insight from sales, and then product managers that are responsible for this part of the product can process those insights. So they look at it and then they tag it. So they would say, okay, this is a requirement and it fits to this bigger topic, to this feature area, to this problem. So
you cluster basically.
Yeah, you pretty much cluster.
Yeah.
And this way you cluster like all the sales insights and the customer success insights. And we actually also separate it so that I can run reports on like what sales says and what customers say, so that you can also see what is like different there. And actually in Product Board, there's not only what the sales and customer success is learning, but also what product is learning themselves. So there's also all of the interviews we ever do. So all transcripts, all the insights they have, everything we learn is also in there. So it also gets tagged to the same structure.
Okay.
And there's a lot about like, how do you set up the structure and so on, but this is another point. And yes, and then what do we do with it? So on the one side, it's always the starting point for each discovery. So let's say we say, oh, okay, this problem really pops up so much and it's a real sales blocker. Then we start and look into Product Board. Who said that? Why did they say it? What insights do we have?
So now here, like 2 steps come now. First, you need to throw out some stuff because it's just, the mass is, I guess, too big, right? So you need to reduce something. You need to say no to some things. And then you need to give it a structure and, evaluate like what's the most important. How do you do these 2 things?
So to be honest, we don't say no to anything at the first point. We just see it as a learning structure. It doesn't it's not a ticketing system. I'm not doing any of those things that are in there. It's just like, okay, there's a lot of insights to this topic and I'm just aware of this, or I see, oh, now that I look at all of those insights, now I see a cluster and a pattern. So out of this, a certain strategy can arise or a certain idea can arise, but it's not that I ever like really use this and like say, okay, this is a ticket system and I work on those things.
So it's not the pressure that you need to process everything. It's just, like a sea. It's just there floating.
Yes, and it is processed into a structure and a category so that I can reuse it and know, okay, this has a tag of this topic, but it's not that we say, okay, this is done or not done.
And how do you select something now for really discovery?
Yes.
That's the next step, I guess, right?
Yeah, totally. So there are different ways how it can come in. So first it could come in because one of our founders says, this is the shit, we have to build it. And then we say, okay, interesting insight. Let's look into Product Board, what we know about this topic. So it's a starting point there. Then another one could be, we have a strategical initiative and we know that in order to reach a certain goal, we could do this. So we look into Product Board.
Okay, so you always like have certain starting points, which are unattached to actually the collection of the topics, right? And then you just take it as an information source.
Exactly, and sometimes it also helps to like product managers to create a feeling and a opinion about things because they read it a lot and then they suddenly start, oh, I've read this 10 times now. There must be some pattern.
So it's more or less like you build up a community, a knowledge base.
Exactly. And so also from this, it could be that a product manager then comes up and says, hey, we need this as product strategy because we could do X, Y, Z with it.
Yeah. Is it always growing and gets bigger and bigger, or do you really sometimes, take things out and say, okay, we looked into that and we don't need that anymore?
Yes, like you can at least archive things in there, or you can like restructure it. And this is, of course, part of the work. It's real work. Like it's not that you just collect the insights and then it's done. The work just starts with collecting and structuring it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then basically the discovery process starts, right?
Exactly. And then this is a great starting point and also something that is feeded again during the discovery process.
Yeah. Who owns the process in your organization?
Product owns it. So the product teams has set up how everyone gives insights in. And I think the biggest chance you have if you as product own that is that you get ahead of the requirements. Because if I talk to a lot of other product managers, a lot of products, and that's okay, are driven by sales requirements and sales requests.
Yes.
And it's really hard to get away from this. And the first step in order to like get more proactive instead of just being reactive is like getting those insights and getting ahead of the game with this. And therefore product needs to own it in order to steer it and to, for example, say, hey, sales, cool insight. But to be honest, we have just heard it 2 times. Probably not the most pressing topic.
Okay. Interesting. But, I know that a lot of organization function in a project setup. Sales sells something without even, communicating to product. And then it goes, through the organization to product. And product, they need to build it because it's already sold, right?
Yeah.
And then they push it into engineering, What you describe is actually the other way around, right? So you as product management, what you have a radar of topics, and then you push it into sales and in the market, right? How did you really make that shift? Because it feels for me, like when you have sales organizations selling projects, you cannot make that shift. And that shift is really crucial to become a product company. How did you do that?
I totally agree. The cool thing is if you're a startup and you start with 20 people, you can build up this mindset from the beginning. So we never had the problem of having to shift.
Yeah.
I was able to educate our people while we were going.
Okay.
So this is the positive side or the luxury I had or we had. Nevertheless, this is not the normal case. A lot of times it's more the other way around. So that you have a company that started with the product market fit on projects and then started to see, okay, there could be a scaling effect. And then it is again about change management. So on the one side, you won't stop sales teams from the one to the other day to say, okay, no, we don't do requirements anymore. But you always have to give them a feedback loop. Hey, we can follow this requirement now and we might do it, but I just want to show you this is how many people talked about this topic. And therefore we believe the other topic that we have in the funnel might have more impact. So it brings you as a product manager in a situation where you have data in order to argument and to work with sales and give them and not just base decisions on one single case, because this is in the end the problem.
Totally agree. Are you as product team involved in the sales process? Like if you have a new client and there is a certain workload of, certain customizations, are you asked if this is possible, or, do you have a veto recht or something like that?
Yes, like this is also something where you always have to push boundaries once and again and balance it. So at some points, like you let sales do a little bit more and sell a little bit, and then you need to steer in again from product side. But if it's bigger topics, we from product, or especially me as VP product, I was included in the sales process. If it was a big customer, that is needed to.
Sorry.
We have here our executive producer.
Is it already?
That was good. It's
Okay,
good
perfect. We just had some sound.
Sound issues. Our executive producer, Sebastian, was here in the.
It was sprawling on the floor down here. Yes, so sometimes, like, I go into the talks with them also to just understand the requirement. Because a lot of times it's not about the requirement, it's about the problem the customer has and why they want it. And a lot of times sales is not able to look underneath the surface. It's not their job. That's our job. So it helps me a lot to understand why do they push for a certain topic so much.
Can you give me a feeling how many customers you onboard which don't require special code modification versus clients who have these code modifications? Because I think that's a huge struggle point.
Absolutely. Like, we are a SaaS product. So actually everyone is using exactly the same code base. There is no customization, but also there's no customization because we decided for it. Like, there were many times where we could have converted a huge customer if we would have done the customization. And then we from product pushed against and said, no, we're not doing it. In order to maintain that and so on, it would not be worth it. But this is something that also depends on your size of customers. If the wallet or the money they spend each month, if it's huge customers and you only have 20 customers, of course you are more dependent on the single customers, and you have to work more closely with them and also like listen more and like follow them. We don't have so big ticket sizes, or like at least in between, I would say. So that means that we still have the possibility to say no and accept that one customer is just not converting to Alasco.
Super interesting. I think this is really like one crucial point to be able to build up that, like, many people struggle to implement something you have, right? And you know, like, I think often the root cause is what you acquire in the very beginning, right? And you need also the mindset of your founder, right? If you have a founder who says like, okay, but we need the money, we just need to build that, then you can do whatever you want, right?
And what's important there's no wrong or right. Like, it doesn't mean that everyone needs to standardize now, or that everyone needs to follow a customer. It's always about the balance and what in the end brings your business value. So is it okay to like get one customer and what you can learn with this customer, get a better product market fit and so on, but also have the maintenance work that might come with it, or you don't do it. So it is always a balance, and there's never a wrong or right, and it's never that you as a product person will not be successful if you just go out there and tell everyone, hey, no, product-led is the only thing that is right. It might not be. So like, of course, you should always push the boundaries and educate, but it's not one thing that is wrong or right.
I think I have the feeling we need to jump to a next question. Super interesting, okay, so Alex asks, interested to learn about the kind of metrics you would recommend to instrument and measure during / following the discovery process. Interesting question, because we just, you know, had a chat before the live stream, and there, you know, like, what was the question most asked about? It was gut feeling. This is like, okay, which kind of metrics plays in the same bucket? So I'm really interested what do you say about this question?
So in general, like, one issue we are facing in B2B is just like a lot of times you have lagging metrics. So if I release a feature or if I have a test, a lot of times like the metric of like the real impact metric, like MRR or something, I will feel it a year later. So to be honest, MRR is not a good metric for me in order to measure in between. I still have the metric or the lagging metric in my head because this is my goal. Why am I doing it? I'm doing it in order to increase the MRR. I'm doing it in order to decrease the churn. I'm doing it in order to increase the adoption by a certain percentage. But a lot of times it takes too long to really like see this. So I need to have some leading metrics that help me to steer the team and the process in between.
How do you do that?
So leading metrics for me are always signals. So a signal could be, hey, we have 5 positive feedbacks in a customer interview, or one of the customers is, after we ask them, says they would never work without it anymore. I don't know, like just you have to set up certain signals that help you to say, okay, this signal looks like the lagging metric might be influenced.
Okay.
So, and this is kind of what you need to do in order to feel what is happening, like during your quarter. So is there already a feedback? And I really like Tim Herbig's blog posts about leading and lagging metrics. And it's also, it could also be an input or an output metric. So it could be also an input metric like, hey, do 5 interviews and learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
Or release 2 MVPs about the topic. Just something that helps the team to go for a certain goal in between, but having a big goal and a big metric in mind.
Yeah. So if I would rephrase what you said is, you release something and you look on the behavior and you try to emphasize and understand if it really helps with what you intended, right?
Exactly.
Is that what you mean with gut feeling?
I think gut feeling is even a little bit at a different point of time, because it's not about, like, you need
interesting to speak about point of time and gut feeling. Gut feeling is first, and then we have like the
I think gut feeling might help you to put down signals or something, but I think so in general, how you make a decision in product is based on customer feedback, based on data, and based on what I say, gut feeling. And I do believe that if you don't listen to your gut feeling, you will get stuck in product discovery processes a lot, because a lot of times there's no black or white answer to a certain discovery process. So I'm talking to customers, and to be honest, one customer is telling me this, and the other one is telling me this, and the third one this. But I do not have the option now to do a survey with 100 customers in order to find out what is the truth out there. So I do not have this possibility.
Okay.
So I somehow need to follow my gut in order to build up a hypothesis. It doesn't mean that my gut says, okay, we only can do this, and this is now the truth. But a lot of times while I'm doing this process, I gather so much information and I see patterns that are coming up, and then I see, okay, I believe in this pattern, and I believe in this gut feeling. So I set up a hypothesis and an experiment on this topic, and that's where a leading metric comes in order to test my gut feeling and to steer my gut feeling.
Do you work with situations and jobs to be done?
Once in a while, like not just as a general thing. I think jobs to be done are just a way to structure something. Just like it could be a customer journey, could be also a way to structure like certain insights and to. So yes, sometimes I would work with it.
Yeah, because I ask, you know, like if I have different interviews, sometimes it helps to think, okay, in which situation is the person, and then you know, like see it through that perspective, because it tends to happen that if you ask people in the same situation, that it gives a lot of clarity. You know, same situation often has the same goals, and then you know. The situation often defines the product. Yeah, that's why I asked.
Absolutely, and like your gut feeling, for example, helps you to write down a user job, or because you also don't know if it's exactly this, but you feel like these are those 3 user jobs, and you need to simplify it somehow. So you write it down, and then you test for it. And this is where you should like have your gut feeling, use it sometimes, like get into it, because otherwise you have to do another 20 interviews in order to like get the confirmation, and there is no need for confirmation sometimes.
Marty used a different word, not gut feeling. He used
product sense.
Product sense.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. I like both. But product sense, do you like, okay, and you know, like this is the thing I struggle with, you know, because product sense tells me go with you, what do you think, right? But on the other hand side, we learned in product, we think often very wrong. So where is the balance between, okay, trust my intention and feelings, or whether, you know, like have the data speak.
Exactly. Like absolutely. Like this is again, where's the balance? So I think you should always use product sense as soon as you feel like you're getting stuck. Like there's no more data coming in, there's no more insights coming in from interviews, and you just feel like the effort or the invest into further learnings in the way you're doing it right now would be too high in order to, like, you don't learn enough anymore. So then better go with your gut feeling, but it doesn't mean you like invest now all of your money in this gut feeling, but you use the gut feeling in order to navigate. So it's about setting up a hypothesis based on that, and then using signals and tests in order to learn about this and seeing, is this kind of the right direction we are steering towards?
Do you think everybody has in any time the gut feeling, or should use the gut feeling, or is a junior should more listen to data and a very senior more to the gut feeling, or is there, you know, like a transition? Do you learn? Do you build up the product sense?
So 100%, I do believe that one skill of senior product managers that have seen a lot, like from different products, that have more knowledge, domain knowledge, they might have a stronger product sense with some things, because product sense is not irrational. Product sense is based on data, but sometimes just not exact data. Nevertheless, also junior product managers do sometimes have a gut feeling that might steer in the right direction. And that's why it's so important to get this gut feeling up in order to have discussions together. So really understanding, like, okay, why, Thomas, do you think the way you do, and why do I think the way I do? And then examining, like, why do we think differently?
You argue.
We discuss, and we like really want to understand each other's reality construction of how our customers work. And exactly there is, like, if you don't put in your gut feeling, you would say, I don't know. But this doesn't help. This doesn't bring us further. It's better to have your gut feeling and say, hey, I feel like it could work like this. Because I have seen this and this. And then I say, I believe this. And then we start to extract the right things.
Exactly. And then you say, like, okay, but if this is true, then we need to be able to see it here and there.
Exactly. Right? Or, now I understand, if this needs to be true, we have never asked this question to the customer. So let's ask this specific question, and then we find out if this is working, and then we can move on.
Or maybe data or something like that.
Exactly.
Then can we read it out of the data? So you always make a construction, virtual, how do you say, like, if you have like a virtual second reality or something like that, and you build it up, and then you try to
exactly, like you work from a certain point of like polarizing something in a certain way, and then you start working from this again.
Digital twin. It would be really interesting to actually, just a thought, you know, to measure the gut feeling, how precise a gut feeling is. And I actually heard of a concept like that, and maybe you know Ray Dalio.
No.
He's one of the best investors worldwide, and they have a tool internally where everybody can type in their thoughts, right? And they measure how accurate they are. And it's about, you know, predicting the future. Investing is always about predicting the future, so they can, you know, calculate like how close people are.
Nice. Yeah. Like I also like one thing how you can sometimes measure gut feeling is with a scoring model, like that you say, for example, okay, I believe this feature has so much impact on our business value. And then everyone rates it from 1 to 10. So it's not about the number. The number doesn't matter. But what matters is, like, why do I put a 10 there, and why do you put a 2 there?
Super interesting. And, you know, like, we have that actually in the product masterclass. Now that we talk about it, it's really like, if you have sales who always push features in your backlog, right? You need to ask them before you code the stuff, right? What's your expectation for the outcome? Because, you know, like, if you develop once or twice something which has at the end no value, you know, you have a different level of conversation afterwards, right?
Absolutely.
At the very beginning, you're in a weak position because the sales guy comes around and says, okay, we need this feature. in order to XYZ, right? Get that customer, get this revenue, XYZ. So you're always under pressure as product or as development to, you know, push stuff out. Yeah? But if you do that, ask about the expectation, and that's basically the gut feeling, right?
Absolutely, or at least gut feeling is something that helps you to like, or at least gut feeling is the thing that you should put on the surface in order to discuss about it. And in the end, like the salesperson will always just see the one customer because that's their job. Like they need to convert one customer. So good thing that they're thinking that way. But me as product, I have to say, hey, cool, yes, we want to convert this customer, or we want to get this customer, but
is there another
there's
one?
10 other customers. So look at the 10 customers you had. Would you still say this is the most important? And then getting in their gut feeling, because it's also no perfect data they have. But discussing this is where the truth or where the magic lies.
Do you have clear expectations for the features, what the business value or what the outcome will be?
I would love to say yes, of course. So at least we try to. Like some features, like incremental developments, no, like just an incremental thing. But of course, you still have something. Hey, we are doing this in order to whatever. But if you are starting to invest in something bigger, yes, you somehow need to build up a business case and need to understand it. And
you try to understand
the business
what
case is gut feeling in the end. It's just like putting down numbers and like getting into a future that is possible, and talking about an anticipated future helps you again to like, think of, okay, what would we have to do in order to reach that?
Nice, interesting. I knew that the gut feeling will somehow come up today as well, right? So, question from Emre. Who owns the process of reaching out to the customers and setting up interviews? Do you have a process for that on product or sales side? Interesting.
Yeah. So this is always something, like, I totally understand why you're asking this question, because it always takes a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. It's sometimes even you don't get the interviews you need at a certain point. So there's different things. Like I would say, product managers do have certain customers they're getting close with, because this is what happens in B2B based on a lot of qualitative feedback and conversations. You start to build up a relationship. So with those customers, product managers reach out right away.
If you don't have that, start with that, because, you know, like for you, this is like,
you're right.
There's a lot of product managers out there who don't talk to customers at all. So if you want to be a better product manager, you need to have the connection to your customers. Otherwise,
totally. Like, and I do have one product manager that is really close with those 3 customers, and another one who is close with those 3, and that's okay. Like at least it's like their first point of contact a lot of times to like check for some things really quick. And yes, absolutely. Like first thing you should have is contact to your customers. So this is one way where they approach them, and we make sure that customer success knows who we're talking to, because B2B product management is also a lot about expectation management. If I show a customer a prototype, I have to handle expectations. I have to handle like what is happening with this. So I need to get the customer success manager in loop with that. Like we do it with our CRM system. We have them in our email. So just we have to work together. And then another point is like if we are in a discovery and we need other customers. So then we also have a Slack workflow. And we just write in, hey, we have the topic of blah, 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 and we want to find out this, and we need this kind of customer who has customers that would fit into the profile. And then customer success is like saying, okay, please reach out to those 5 customers. They would fit perfectly. Please don't reach out to this customer. They are in a churn process right now. We should handle them differently.
Give me a feeling, how many customers do you have? Like, is it thousands, is it hundreds?
Like 300 to 400 customers.
Okay. Just, you know, like for people to relate for that, because, you know, like if you have huge customers, you know, it's different story.
And I would say that each product manager should at least talk to 3 customers a week. No matter 3 customers a week.
That's actually a lot.
Yes, it is. It is, but that's your job. So, or at least be in contact with them in some way. Could be an email, could be or over your customer facing team, or jump into a sales call and listen, or go into a feedback from customers, like somehow get into contact with customers.
Love it. Okay, but you know, like still, I think the question is also in the direction, so if you don't have existing customers, or like, do you have like also like another channel where you go out and greenfield, you know, recruit people? Do you have like whatever with newsletter? Do you use agencies? Like, is there another, you know, way to recruit people for that?
Yeah, so this is especially a struggle you're having if you start with a new product where you don't have people, or if you are in a startup in the beginning phase, like you just don't have enough people. So we never found something or someone who could really help us and like recruit people for us. At least we never did it. But I then, in the beginning, I talked to our salespeople, and they did cold calls for me in order to reach out to possible customers, to possible prospects that I just needed for the exploration process. Or later on, I had maybe in our market, in the construction market, I tried to go to consultants in the construction market and try to leverage their network. Or I used our founders network, or I have built up my own network of people that talk to me and are experts. So it is effort. It is just like really building up your customer base, or like just your insights you're getting from certain people.
I mean, your topic is really specific. I mean, construction industry, you have a certain persona which you target, right? So I feel, you know, like the broader your product is, the easier is it to get it also through agencies. We did that a lot.
Yes. Then it's nice. Like this would be a luxury for us. I would love to have an agency getting them.
Interesting.
And the easiest is if you can go outside and your customer is walking on the street. Like this is like,
of course,
the coolest thing you could have.
Okay. By the way, Emre, he said like, oh, thanks for the inspiring talk at the conference.
Nice. Thank you.
Tom has another question. Here is, how do you perform competitor analysis? What process? Who owns that? What level of importance do you assign to what of the competitors are doing?
So, good topic. And to be honest, we try to have processes, responsibilities for competitor analysis. And to be honest, we always failed with it, because in the end, it ended up in one PowerPoint slide deck. It ended up in one Notion board, and then it never got updated. So I feel, or at least I would love if someone has a perfect process for that, but I feel like it's not something that we constantly keep up to date. I just start doing it or go back to the information we have every time it is necessary in order to make an important product decision, because not always a competitor analysis helps me in order to decide for something. So, and I do competitor analysis on totally different levels. So as an example, I could do a competitor analysis in order to understand a UI pattern they are using, or in order to understand a concept, how they are seeing it. But on the other side, I could do a competitor analysis in order to position a certain product. So just this is so differently, and the way I'm looking at the competitor or the competitor I'm choosing is might be so different that I don't believe that you can have a standardized process. So I feel like a competitor analysis is just another research question, just a research question, like it could be everything else. And it just helps me in order to figure out something new and to understand the market there a little more.
Interesting. I think, you know, like if you don't look at your competitor at all, I mean, this is the best thing you actually can do, right? If it's really coming from your customer, or like what is, like if you talk only to customer and, you know, process this in a smart way, is that enough, or do you still need competitor analysis in order to, you know?
I think that sometimes a competitor analysis, or like if I look at the UI pattern, how they're using solving the problem, it's a good head start I can get once in a while, because they might have already solved the problem in a certain way. So why should I solve it differently if this works good? So could be okay. Could also be like a lot of times, like especially for us, our competitors are in a niche market. You have a lot of non-digitalized competitors that are on-premise and so on. Of course, I don't look at their software in detail and how they have the UI pattern, but nevertheless, it's interesting of like what is their logical structure in their product and understand why they decided for this and then use it. Or it helps me to position a new product if I really understood why do customers buy this product and what is their USP and how can we position against that. So I do believe that it can be an interesting data point, but I also don't think it is the most important data point.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. So because, you know, like if you have like a competitor on premise, right? The processes they use and the goals they have can be or should be the same, right?
Yes, like what they have there might be the same, but we would have a different solution to it.
Exactly.
So which is nice. Like then you can understand, this is the exact problem that the customer is talking about. And this is how they're solving it. Cool. This is not how we're going to solve it.
And this is actually, you know, like that's the job to be done approach. Actually, you know, jobs stay the same. You know, listen to music was 1,000 years, you know, they just had a band live. That was the only solution. Then the gramophone, then we had cassette, then we had the CD, we had like all the different solutions, but you know, the job was always the same, right?
Exactly. So it could be even if you have a gut feeling about the job to be done. So test your job to be done that you have designed in your gut feeling and test if this is the jobs to be done that the competitor has solved in their product. So this could already be your first test in order to figure out if this made sense.
Interesting. Yeah, makes total sense. Next one. Ahmad asks, as a startup, it's a lot of pressure sometimes and less manpower to work on all insights. I have a few questions related to that. First, is the bigger business really open to give feedback easily? Second, do you like to have a design system for your product in the startup? Third, how do you use AI in your daily routine? That's really interesting, the last part, since you just, you know, focus on that lately. So let's start maybe with the first, right? A few questions, right? Is the bigger business really open to give feedback easily?
So do you think he means with bigger business the sales department?
Could be, yeah. Let's just use it like that, right? Is it easier to talk to bigger businesses or harder to talk to bigger businesses?
Oh, bigger businesses being our customer?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this could be. So more like talk to enterprise customers, really open to giving feedback easily. Okay, got it. Depends. Some are, some are not. Some need to understand the value of giving feedback. This is what we do a lot. Like
what do you mean by that? The value of giving feedback
for the customer. So the customer needs to understand why is it valuable for them to talk with me. So what they did in former times was, hey, here's the list of requirements, just do it. And take the ticket system. And now we would say, hey, no, we're not doing this, but we love to talk to you.
Yeah, bigger customer, for example, Mercedes.
So,
So big clients,
So big clients. So then so that's what they used to. This is how they are socialized of how software companies are working. Hey, software companies are just our service provider for the software. So we need to educate our customers on why it is helpful for them to talk with us and why we are not just building what they tell us to build. So what I did in the beginning, as soon as we like onboard huge customers, I would do an introduction of how does product management work at Alasco and why is SaaS different to on-premise and why is this more valuable for our customers than if we would just follow their requests. So I do have a really simple slide deck on this, like really starting with Henry Ford. We don't we don't want to have faster horses. We want to build the car. So it's like really starting on their level of knowledge. And helping them to understand how software works and why software nowadays works differently to the software 20 years ago.
Well, now you talk about existing customers, right? If he's in a startup, I think he's in a different position. He needs to recruit bigger corporates. So now you have also like corporate clients, right?
Yes, like in the construction industry, it's not that huge corporate clients, but yes, it could also be corporate real estate management or something.
Okay, so how big are the clients? Like, is it like
it could be, for example, Mercedes if it's the real estate department from Mercedes. So
I would like, if I would need to answer this question, I would actually say, okay, it's two parts, right? First, you always talk to humans. No matter how big the organization is, you always talk to a human. Do you solve a problem for a human? And the second thing is, point out in which situation and with which problem you help them with. That's the motivation why they talk to you. And then it actually, is a little bit independent of the size, but it still is 100%. Harder. Yes. It still is harder to talk to bigger clients. I would actually say, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is sometimes harder, but I totally agree. In the end, it's humans. And if they feel like there is a problem being solved, they want to talk to you. And if they don't want to talk to you, maybe you're not at the right problem that you're solving. Like then it's not interesting enough for them on their agenda. Maybe then, especially if you're a startup, maybe then you're not at the right point of like where your product really delivers value.
How do you use AI in your daily routine? And let's just focus on the let's first focus on the discovery process. Do you have any AI tools there?
Like on our daily routine, I would say it's just ChatGPT, using it in different formats, like just how everyone else is using it to generate content once in a while, to like understand patterns, to get fast into a topic, like just really basic. But what we are doing now is more thinking of like, how can we make our product better with AI? So like, what are new solution spaces opening up because of the new technology that we could have not solved before, or which would have been too expensive to solve before, and which are now possible, like automations of workflows or document processing or classification of topics. So like all of those topics. So we are more, this is where I see the big value right now. Of course, you have efficiency topics where you can use ChatGPT and like AI. So this is cool, but I do see a lot of value in like understanding what are new solution spaces popping up with AI.
Okay. New solution spaces.
Like I think you can just solve a problem differently now if you're able to think of like, how can I use AI for it? How can I make use of ChatGPT? How can I make a use of and it's actually pretty simple to build a functional prototype really, really fast.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that, because like I feel that's actually discovery, right? This is So you play around and you try, like, do you have a clear goal with your prototypes or with your playing around, or like how you start with that? Like, this is like a research question, right? How can we put AI into that? How do you start with that?
Yeah, so I think we all as a society, we're in the beginning of AI, and also me, I'm at the beginning of understanding what AI does and how it works and how I can make it work for me and how I can get value out of this from customers. So right now, I'm in a really open discovery about this topic, like thinking of use cases and problems that I might be able to solve. So as an example, so we have an invoice workflow process for construction invoices. And we have different workflow steps where people have to check the invoice and the contract information and just check, are they the same? Does it fit from the price and so on? And this, what has been done manually so far, can be easily done with ChatGPT. And you can test this so fast because you just take the invoice, load it up in ChatGPT, take the contract, load and put it into a prompt, and then ask, is the whatever price the same. So just as an example of how I can make use of this, and if I put this into the process, I can automate this workflow. So you need to think of like, what are new solution spaces coming up, and I can now solve this problem of checking for the invoice and the contract details in a different way than I could have done it 1 year ago.
Okay, and how do you identify which problems are especially suited well for AI?
So what we did is like we brainstormed in the whole organization what are possible use cases for AI. It doesn't mean that they make sense at the first point, and then we started to think of how much value do we bring with this if we could do it, and then we thought of how feasible is it. Like, is it already working with the technology we're already having? How much effort would it be to build? And then we started to prioritize, and then we just started to pick some things that are bringing fast value and that are feasible, because what we wanted to do is we wanted to learn, we wanted to make use of it. So we just took 3 topics, and then we just built it as functional prototypes, and now work with the first customers in order to try it out, to see how are they approaching this topic. Are they really afraid about their data being in ChatGPT? How do we manage this? So there's so much to learn. And this is where we are.
How did you choose the customer, and how did you to make the communication? Because, you know, that is like, you know, I'm sure there is a lot of, you know, corporate people also listening. And if you say like to BMW, you know, go out with a prototyped feature in AI, they would say like, okay, we can do that. Like, how did you do that? Like,
so
how do you, what's your approach there?
I took our process over Slack again. So in our workflow, I put in, hey, customer success, I'm looking for 3 customers that are open for digital new innovations, and that they would do it, and they have the feeling, and then they proposed me 5 customers, and then I said, okay, I want to take those 3, and then I approached them, and of course first I did some education. I told them how the data process is working. I told them that OpenAI belongs, or that we do it over Azure, and that how everything is connected, and that they don't have to be scared of their data going somewhere, but that it's in our ecosystem, and that it stays there. And then we had to educate them, and to be honest, then it was easy. Like,
so the boundaries you made sure that, you know, like data security and GDPR and everything, that's safe. You didn't compromise on these things, right?
And I also checked with our legal department before, and like made sure, do they have to sign something that we're able to use their data? And
you had buy-in from top management, I guess, right? They said, okay, it's okay.
And it was easier than I expected it to be. Yes, because they were so curious about the topic. And were excited to try something out like this. So, and we are still on our learning journey. So it's really exciting right now.
Time really flies, but we do one more question. Is it a viable solution for B2B company with complex business processes to have PM work only on discovery, for example, like water, detached from the development team?
This is the pre-discovery topic.
Yeah, maybe pre-discovery, but, you know, like here is not separate between discovery and pre-discovery. So it could also be only about discovery, right? So does it make sense to take a PM out of this his or her role, right? And say, okay, just focus on discovery for a quarter. What do you think about that?
So the perfect book answer would be no. Don't do it, because the perfect book would always say the product manager needs to be involved from 0 until it is deployed and it gets live. And there is a truth in this, because the more the product manager knows, the better the product will be he or she built. So in general, yes, but there is a couple of reasons why I think that it sometimes still makes sense to have a setup like this. It doesn't mean that a product manager then doesn't do discovery anymore, but more the solution discovery when the problem is already clear. So as soon as the problem is clear, the product manager needs to understand, how do I do the solution design? What problem in detail will I solve? What are the jobs to be done? I would never take that away from a product manager. This is the job. Otherwise, you are maybe this PO and you're just managing the engineering team. This is not what a product manager does. A product manager needs to do the discovery in order to define and design a solution. So this is always with the team. However, I do believe that it sometimes makes sense to have a different team that does discovery. Why? Because this team will be able to put ideas in the garbage, because they are not forced to keep up the flow. The product manager is always forced to keep up the flow of having solutions in the backlog in order to have the engineers have enough topics and so on. So it sometimes makes sense to have a pre-discovery team work on a quarter on a discovery topic that helps to, for example, define what is the strategic initiative, what are actually our goals, what are the customer group we want to reach with it. And as soon as we know, hey, this problem is like really makes sense to solve, then it would go over and the product manager takes over. But this is always something where you have to be, it has its pros and cons.
Yeah. So I would be really curious, like if I have a question like that, a quarter for discovery for a quarter is a really long time.
Oh, for B2B, I would say no. Sometimes it depends. For me, a discovery is not, I just do interviews. A discovery for me includes having prototypes, maybe having, even shipping a small MVP and like really like it's about learning. Yeah. And to be honest, for us, it can take a quarter at least sometimes because until I get the customers to work with, until I have understood the construction domain, and until then I understood what the problem of the customer is, and then I want to test it. So this can really take a quarter, at least for us.
How many topics does each product manager in your organization have in the discovery process in parallel to I assume you do it in parallel, right?
Yes. So we have a dual track development, I would say. So ideally, the product manager has just one discovery topic and then has the things that are in delivery, but still need refinement, still have some things to go. But also it depends on how big is the discovery up there. So sometimes the discovery is huge and you are only able to manage one thing. And this is also where you need to create focus time for the product manager, because this is always what gets pushed away, because it never feels urgent because no one pushes you. So you need to create time for product managers to prioritize the discovery. And ideally, they would just do one thing, or at least time box. So a lot of times I would say, hey, 6 weeks working on these topics, and then you put it into the next stage.
What's your workflow for that? Do you have like a board, like a Kanban board or something like that, where you track the different topics which are in discovery, or how do you do that?
We do it with like our internal roadmap, kind of like on the roadmap, there would be a topic that would be in a different color than the other one, because we just are in discovery and we have no clue what we build if we build it. So we would put it there and say, hey, it's time boxed for 6 weeks. We're looking at this topic. And then it might go into also delivery at some point of time, but it's just an open topic.
And how often do you kick out topics where you say, like, okay, we've been wrong with that?
Not enough. I think this is in the end where the success of a company lies, being able to push ideas into the garbage bin, in the garbage, because if you need to invalidate ideas, you need to invalidate things that you're following, not validated all the time, because this is where the value lies. So I think this should always be part of the process, and you should always have a possibility to do this. So I don't know how often we do it. I would just say not enough, not often enough.
Look at that, time is really running. It's over an hour already.
Wow.
Wow, that was really super fun, super interesting. For me, it's super interesting to learn how you do that, right? And super interesting to be able to ask, deeper questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you for answering all the questions for the people who watched us, right?
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Thank you to all of you. It was nice to be here. It was. It's always interesting. Like if you talk about the things, you realize what you're actually doing there. So I always learn a lot while doing this. So yes, thanks to all the people asking questions, and also please reach out in LinkedIn to me, and also if you have more questions, I will try to write blog posts about it or whatever. So feel free to shoot me a message.
So we have one more exciting announcement, because we're already planning ahead for next year, just product, which will take place on 11th of October. And we have a really exciting speaker coming up for that. And it's Ryan Singer. Ryan Singer is not so super famous in Germany, but I think he has a super interesting contribution because he wrote a book called Shape Up, right? You heard about the book? Yeah. And it's, so to say, like in easy words, and it's an alternative to Scrum, right? An alternative way to think about, okay, how do I scope things? How do I think about opportunities, and how do I bring them into development? Yeah, so we're really stoked to have him. He will be in Munich actually, and yeah, we're super happy. You can get tickets on justproduct.de, and yeah, next year maybe you
already,
come around, right?
Already looking forward to next year product.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Julia. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, guys. See you
everyone.
next time. In 2 weeks, in 2 weeks, we do it with Sebastian. Ask me anything about his talk, Productize Project to Product.
Nice.
Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.